Modern conservatism is a lie. Now, let me explain you why. So, whenever I imagine the perfect version of conservatism, I imagine a 1950s family unit. I imagine a family where good values are imparted in the family, good values are encouraged, and it's always about the family, it's always about family values, and it's always about what are your values as a person and what is your um, preferred way to live according to the values of your given uh, political or let's say just religion ideology. So, for example, the version of conservatism I have in my mind, it's something more resembling the values that you should live by if you are a Christian. And what I mean by that is that you should live your life like the New Testament is advising you to live like your life like. Now, that would include some things that liberals would not like. So, for example, I don't think living your life as a Christian is something that would be very permissive of, for example, um, homosexuality, to make an example. But it's not teaching you to hate homosexuals either. It's not a hate ideology. Now, that is what I see when I think about conservatism. And when I think about conservative values, I mean, I think about um, taking care of the family unit, teaching your kids to be good persons, teaching them to live by principle, and teaching them to serve their community and be people of use as a whole, at good use to the society as a whole, and to create value. Now, that doesn't mean that you should hate people. That doesn't mean that you should worship money. On the contrary, you should not worship money. And you should pretty much be a person of value for your community. Now, that is not what I see about conservative values being taught upon nowadays. What I see as conservative values nowadays are very far from that. So, for example, I see that we are following up people that are routinely teaching you stuff like hating on women for some reason. That's a very weird reason, uh, or it's a very weird practice to be called conservatism. And it's a very weird thing as a whole because if you are planning of having a family and creating the perfect family unit, hating on women it's counterproductive to that. I would think that teaching your kids or just, encouraging people to take care of women, it's something that would be more conservative. And it's something that our grandfathers or people that lived before our generation would tell you it's a good thing, regardless of how rough they were around the edges and how they treated women in general, which, let's face it, wasn't really good. But if there was something undeniable, is that they took care of women. Now, they were against some women's rights, which I do not share at all. But the truth of the matter is, things got better as time went by, and since the '60s till the date, things have changed a lot. And one of those things is that we have, for some reason, started following people that are teaching very obnoxious and prejudicial things. Things like hating women, things like thinking they are inferior, things like being promiscuous. Although I don't know how you can be promiscuous if you do not like women or if you do not treat them well. But nevertheless, that's what's being called modern conservatism right now. Another thing that is being called modern conservatism, it's or conservative values, is worshiping money. Now, you would think that if you see someone offering a horse for certain female favors. Let's put it like that, just to not mention any names or not make any references to anyone. You would think that that would be repudiated. But nowadays, people like that make such crass offers and that have kids around uh, in multiple, not even marriages, in multiple relationships, and that have treated their women like very badly, very with very obnoxious behavior to the point that the women have felt the need to call them out publicly. Which for a woman, I can tell you, it's not a very easy thing to do. Uh, those people should not be worshipped, and I'm pretty sure you know who I'm talking about. But nevertheless, we have somehow, for some reason, invited people like that to be leaders of the so-called conservative movements, which are not conservative at all. If anything, they are diabolical in nature. So I don't know how you can call them true conservatism. Another thing that I think we should be very careful about is not teaching pride to our children and not being prideful ourselves. So, for example, I see people being very vain, and I know that social media has got a lot of fault with this. Uh, but nevertheless, this is something that is not really compatible with real conservative values. So, my advice to you is if you want to be really conservative, if you really want to uphold what are true conservative values, is you should see things for what they are. And hateful messages, toxic behaviors, prideful personalities, they are not things that are to be worshipped or followed. They are things that should be denounced. This is not a liberal thinking. This is a conservative thinking. And I have been, for the most part of my life, a pretty liberal person. But nowadays, that I'm a little bit older and that I have kids and that I have a pretty good family unit, if I may say so, I am drawn more to teaching my kids to be the best they can be, but always being useful for society and always being useful for their environment. And I consider that a conservative value. Now, that is not very compatible with what we have been seeing lately. But what we have been seeing lately is the result of propaganda, really artful use of astroturfing, and really artful use of opinion manipulation by some very wealthy people and some very wealthy powers that be. And those powers that be do not want you to be conservative. What they want you is to be hateful and to attach conservatism to a narrative that it's not about good values, it's not about Christian values, it's not about human values, but it's about they being in a position to control everything and they being in a position to hoard the money, hoard the resources, hold the political power, and hold the opinion of the people who call themselves conservative and hoarding everything up. So I advise you to see between the lines, and hopefully you can agree with me that being hateful is not uh, it's not a good feature. It's not a good quality. Um, Being promiscuous is not a good quality. I mean, if you like being in relationships and they're consensual, good for you. More power to you and the persons that are with you. But they are not things you should really live by. And worshiping money, for example, for certain, is not something you should live by. And you should be very careful about people that tell you otherwise. So, yeah, this has been my reflection for today. I am going to record more reflections and more content like this in the future. So, if you like it, please leave a like. And I'm going to do it in video form. I'm so sorry that I just recorded this one as an audio, but I'm going to make some good editing for it. So if you like this one, please leave a like. If you like more content or you have any feedback, please leave a comment. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Bye.